Now we can move on to the rezoning questions.
Okay.
Um, if Crossroads becomes a middle school, will they be getting money to update the facility for middle school sports and fine arts?
Correct. So the question is, regardless of if it passes or if it does not pass, Crossroads will be a middle school with a full middle school program. And so, same number of students, just divided among different schools. Now, so that means that the equipment will go with them. Now, I am very excited. Our Board of Trustees just introduced or approved $1 million of band equipment and strings equipment for band and orchestra. So we have that broken out for Crossroads as well. So the full complements of athletics as well as arts for all 5 middle schools.
Okay. During the presentation, it was mentioned that no children would be moved to IRMO schools, but that H.E. Corley Elementary students are moving to Crossroads Middle, which is part of the IRMO cluster. Will there be choice options for H.E. Corley students to move to Dutch Fork Middle instead, or will there be magnet programs available at the middle school level that would provide those options?
All right. So remember, there will be choice throughout the district, and we're still a district of choice. With the referendum, if the referendum passes, we would have more capacity at all 5 middle schools to maybe increase those offerings. Currently, let's look at H.E. Corley. H.E. Corley goes to Crossroads in our current form, but of course, they stay there 1 year. In each one of these, the new one with the referendum and without the referendum, H.E. Corley still attends Crossroads. The reason it's Crossroads is because it serves both communities. So it's not really in one cluster. It's the one that sits on the edge. It serves both communities. In fact, the colors are scheduled to change. I don't know if I'm supposed to wait till after the decision, but it's a change to represent both the green of Dutch Fork and the gold of IRMO.
Okay, for rising K-5 students for fall of 25, will there be more options to have them start at their new school so they won't have to transfer after just 1 year?
The goal is to have once the decision is made. I can't give kind of a blanket notion about rezoning. I think we have to continue with our current structure. The goal in the fall of 25 is to have all the assignments made for programs. And that is a year of transition. What's important to understand is that, yes, we'll still have choice. And if through the lottery system or the magnet system, you want to move into that school, that's fine. But for students who can't, we're using next year, fall 25, spring 26, as the transition year. Open houses, talk to the, meet the principal, meet the teacher nights, times to go see what the new schools and the new buildings would look like for that rezoning process. So we want to take a year for those, or we heard from our public about rezoning is emotional. It's a change is tough. And anything we can do to kind of alleviate the concerns with change, we're going to do.
Okay, with the new zoning, will Crossroads Middle School have a magnet program or be known for something like IRMO Middle School has IB and the Escalaris program?
So Crossroads is developing that. Principal Aaron Doty is working with their staff and really working with the center on a model that is very similar to Spring Hill with career cluster focuses. I'm going to let them do more of sharing what those programs is, but the answer is yes. And so kind of look forward to a career clusters focus similar to what's at Spring Hill, but they're working with the center, and they're also for advanced technical studies in our CAPE program, career and technical education, to create something to that nature at Crossroads.
Okay, this person sent in a question. I understand the preferred choice slash grandfathering in system for new zoning purposes. Is the district still going to be school of choice?
We are a school of choice where every choice is a great choice. And it's important to understand that in a system where you have more room in the buildings because of how we're utilizing the buildings, that allows more choice. Here you can see it's tough to have choice in areas where the capacity is high. Um, Here's where we have room and facilities, so it's easier to have choice there. When you move students into conditions where the majority of your buildings are in the yellow, it increases the amount of choice that we can provide. So with the referendum, there's more opportunity for choice. Without the referendum, we have to use our existing footprint and that really limits the amount of open seats.
Why aren't Dutch Fork students being rezoned into IRMO schools if there is space?
And you can see that there's still space in Dutch Fork, right? So you have to fill up the Dutch Fork area before you move into IRMO. So you don't want to rezone someone away from their neighborhood or their community when there's currently room in their existing community in their neighborhoods to a school outside of their community. It's only where you have tension, right? Where you're over that max capacity, do you go through the movement. As you can see by the utilization rate, there is room in Dutch Fork to handle its students in that community.
Okay, and there are in some rezoning, there are some roads that are split with the opposite sides going to different elementary schools. Can you explain how this would work with transportation of bus routes and how that logically and financially is beneficial?
I think as many of those have been addressed as possible already. I don't know when that question came in, but if you can give me specifics about what neighborhood was split, we'll get with transportation. I know a lot of these we've already worked out in terms of being a road over or looking at a neighborhood. It's the same neighborhood, but it's divided by maybe a creek or some water feature or some big road. But a lot of those have been resolved. But if they can send me the specific neighborhood, we can get transportation to look at that.
Okay. Will there be a grandfather option based on if you bought your house by a certain date with the school zones that were assigned when you bought it?
So there's no blanket grandfathering. There is what's called preferred choice. So what preferred choice is, if you look at where we were previous to where we are on, it's based on the amount of space that's available. So we're going to have to redraw the lines, and as we redraw the lines, you're basically taking Ballantyne and serving the Chapin community with Ballantyne. So based on if we can expand Chapin Elementary and expand Lake Murray Elementary, then that would give us more room to provide preferred choice. If we can't expand those buildings, then that would give us less opportunity to provide preferred choice.
How does rezoning impact students who are at schools due to the lottery? Will they have to apply again to remain at the school that they're at?
So the lottery system is going to stand as it currently stands, and if it's an annual thing that you apply to, then it will continue to be annual. But if it's based on space, what a lot of these are, then it's going to be in the conditions in which the space is available. You can see by this max a percent of max capacity or utilization rate map where we have space and where we don't have room. As we move back east, the goal is to create more opportunities to handle the growth in the Chapin area.
Okay. Will students who are at Chapin Middle School still go to Chapin High School or have a choice between Chapin High School and Spring Hill High School?
So very good question. The students at Chapin Middle School can go to both Spring Hill High School or Chapin High School. The students at Spring Hill Middle School can go to Chapin High School or Spring Hill High School if the referendum passes. And I should say that's if the referendum passes. If the referendum fails, then the same amount of seats that are at Spring Hill High School will stay the same. So if it passes, the amount of seats for Chapin Middle and Chapin and Spring Hill Middle School students would increase. If it fails, the seats at Spring Hill will stay the same. You say, well, why is that? If it fails, the Academy for Success is going to stay in Spring Hill. And so there's not the ability to increase the number of seats for additional Chapin Middle and Spring Hill Middle students. If the referendum passes, the Academy for Success is moved. So because it moved, that entire wing is now opened up, and it will open up for Chapin Middle and Spring Hill Middle students.
Okay, and keep this graphic up because this will help you answer this next question that I have. It says, in previous discussions, it was mentioned that Chapin Middle School be combined with Chapin Intermediate School, making the middle school Spring Hill Middle School. Can you provide insight on how 3 grade levels intend to fit in that school? Also, will Spring Hill Middle School be a magnet school, or who is eligible to go there?
So I'm going to start with where we are in this model and then move to where we're going. In this model, CIS and CMS, instead of will be turned into, if it passes or if it fails, 2 middle schools. Right now we have 1 middle school and 1 intermediate school. CIS will turn back into Chapin Middle. CMS would turn into Spring Hill Middle. And you can see if it fails, CIS turns into Chapin Middle. CMS turns into Spring Hill Middle. And now, who goes to these schools? Well, we will look at the elementary schools that feed in, plus Ballantyne that we're scooping in. If it passes or fails, Chapin Elementary and Piney Woods Elementary go into the new Chapin Middle. Lake Murray and Ballantyne will go into Spring Hill Middle. And same in this scenario. So basically, you have to understand where we are. We have 2 buildings in Chapin, both are at middle level grades. And now, instead of having 2 grades at each, these are built to have 6th, 7th, and 8th. They will have less students, and so it's not taking that same population, right? The population of students would be reduced. We're taking those 2 buildings and converting them into 2 middle schools.
Okay, and here's a scenario that one of our parents said. Her daughter is currently in 6th grade at Chapin Intermediate. So when the change happens, will she continue at Chapin Middle School that year or go back to the CIS building her 8th grade year? I heard you could stay in the highest level of the school, so just want to clarify if she would go from CIS to CMS back to CIS or just continue 8th grade at Chapin Middle and not have to go back to the CIS building for 8th grade.
Wonderful question. And that is, you finish at the highest level of the building you entered. So once you've entered that building, you're going to finish at the highest level.
Okay. The rezoning is in 2026. Will the Chapin and Lake Murray elementary expansions be completed prior to that time when the rezoning is set to happen?
We have asked, our intent is that those buildings are finished. I need 18 months of construction time. So the reality is I asked the board to already start to begin this process before the referendum with the procurement of the architectural and engineering plans. That process has already started even before the vote. If the vote fails, then we have those plans. We own those plans. If the vote passes, then we are that much further along the way of getting this done so that we have a certificate of occupancy by August of 2026.
Okay. If the bond, okay, so if the bond passes, my student who will be in eighth grade for the 26-27 school year would have to go to Crossroads Intermediate for sixth, Dutch Fork Middle for seventh, and then returning to Crossroads Middle for eighth, and then back to Dutch Fork High for high school. Is that accurate?
No. So remember, once you and this is a new question, but answered before. So I would say is you will finish at the highest level. Now, the students who 26 who are their first time in middle school, that's who will go into the new. We're not pulling anybody out of their area. That keeps the balance there, right? So we're moving the next group up. If you start to pull everyone out of existing schools and reshuffle, it really we can't keep those numbers to work. So you finish through the highest space in which you're going, and we bring in that new group with that new formation.
Okay. And here's a question for high school. It says, will high school students in 10th through 12th grades be required to change high schools, or would that only apply to the incoming freshmen?
Correct. So you're going to, it only applies to the incoming freshman. You're going to, or any choice that is made, but that's on the parent that makes that choice. We're not pulling students out of a school to be rezoned to a new one. If you're there as a ninth grader, you're going to finish through your highest, which would be 12th. That upcoming freshman class would be under the new rezoning.
Okay. And I don't know if you're going to know, this is a very specific question. So I don't know if you know the answer, or you can refer them to the website where they could find the answer. It says, will my neighborhood of Rolling Creek be affected by the referendum? And if so, will my children be grandfathered in? And when will the changes take place?
So Rolling Creek is impacted by the referendum. Let's see if I have a slide of that. Right there.
Oh, good.
So there are four communities: Chelsea Park, Rolling Creek, the Courtyards, and Waterfall. If the referendum passes, these communities will continue to be zoned to Chapin High School. If the referendum fails, these communities will be zoned to Dutch Fork. Remember, you stay at the school until your highest level. And so if the child is already at Chapin, they're going to finish at Chapin. It's just that next group coming under that next freshman class would follow the new map. And the question again would be, Dr. Ross, will why will those areas go to Dutch Fork High School? And I think we have to look at the density map. If the referendum fails, I got to keep the Academy for Success here at Spring Hill. So to relieve Chapin and Intermediate and Chapin Middle, to relieve these areas, all of these areas are going to be coming to Chapin High. So Chapin High needs relief. If I cannot relieve them here at Spring Hill, then the next high school is Dutch Fork High School. So if the referendum passes, then I can relieve Chapin High at Spring Hill High. If the referendum fails, those four neighborhoods, Waterfall, Chelsea Park, Rolling Creek, those areas, those would go to Dutch Fork High School.
Okay. Will any of these construction changes to buildings be able to increase the capacity for more 4K classrooms?
Yes, I would like to say we want to. we could increase definitely at Piney Woods. I know that's already in the plans. I want to make sure we do the rezoning first before I can promise any more 4K. With the referendum, right, numbers wise, you have more opportunities for adding additional programs like 4K. Without it, it just becomes very constrained. So, but I do want to say the plan is with the referendum, Piney was getting the 4K program.
Okay, so that is all of my rezoning questions.